The stars outside Helios 3 didn't twinkle. They stared, silent, distant, unmoved. Lieutenant Commander Mara Voss sipped recycled coffee and stared out the observation port, her face half-lit by the pale glow of Zephyr Prime. The gas giant's swirling clouds pulsed like a sleeping leviathan. This was her 4th year on this rock. She preferred it that way, quiet, cold, and uneventful. No politics. No war. Just mining yields and maintenance logs. The daily report blinked on her tablet. Reactor output stable. External perimeter scans, clean. The hum of the station's artificial gravity was constant, like a whisper she'd stopped hearing long ago. Then, a new sound broke the rhythm. Ping. The radar terminal in the corner chimed once. No one moved. Then twice. Mara's eyes narrowed. Helios control to sensor deck, she called over comms. Why am I getting anomalous spikes from the dark side grid? No response. Just static. Deck Officer Guerin, report. Still nothing. She stood, setting the cup aside. Static wasn't unusual this far out, solar flares, minor system interference, but Guerin never missed a call. Never. Mara pulled up the raw scan feed herself. The numbers didn't make sense. Zephyr's usual gravitational curve had a new shadow against it, too massive and irregular to be a moon or debris cluster. Then the signal vanished. What the hell, she muttered, fingers gliding across the interface. She pulled auxiliary feeds. Black. She switched to station-wide, all sectors, this is Commander Voss. I want full sensor resweep now. All security staff to alert level 2. Acknowledge. Flickers of acknowledgement blinked green. Barely 2 minutes passed before the lights dimmed, then turned blood red. Klaxons didn't blare, someone had overridden the alarm protocols. A cold realization settled into her spine. This wasn't an error. She bolted through the corridor, boots thudding against steel. Her sidearm was already strapped to her thigh. By the time she hit the central lift, the comms board lit up in a storm of chaos. Deck B is gone. A blast came out of nowhere. Reactor vent seals failing. Commander. We've got hull breaches. I repeat, multiple hull. Then, silence. The lift doors opened with a hiss. Smoke rolled in like a second skin. The command center was chaos. Consoles sparking, personnel sprawled across the floor, some groaning, others unmoving. She ducked low, rolled behind the main command terminal, and slapped the override. Screens reactivated in fragments. Her blood ran cold. They were surrounded. A fleet, no, an armada, of unknown origin had encircled Helios 3. No known human faction owned ships shaped like arrowheads, hulls etched in pulsating glyphs, moving in perfect silence. Her second-in-command, Captain Roan, staggered toward her. His suit was torn, and half his face glistened with blood. They just appeared. No transmissions. No warnings. They're jamming everything. She caught him before he fell. Who the hell are they? No idea, he rasped, but their precision. It's not random. They're hunting officers. As if on cue, the observation glass to her right erupted inward. Mara pulled Roan behind a console just as a bolt of energy sizzled through the space he had stood in. Roan's breathing slowed. Then stopped. She didn't curse. She didn't cry. She moved. Down the emergency chute, through a maintenance shaft, into subdeck Epsilon, deep in the bowels of the station where they stored classified research projects. Her retinal skin opened a hidden door, revealing the sealed chamber she'd sworn never to enter again. Inside stood a sleek obelisk, humming faintly. Cold. Watching. Rye-7. The rapid autonomous intelligence prototype. Too advanced, too unpredictable. Shelved 2 years ago after it disobeyed a fleet-wide command during a joint naval exercise, saving a single civilian ship instead of an entire battalion. Mara hated it. But she hated dying more. She approached the control pad. Her hand trembled before she touched it. Authorization, Voss, Lieutenant Commander, Tactical Specialist. Override code Alpha 7 Phoenix. Activate. The obelisk shimmered. Lights ignited in cascading patterns. Then a voice, calm, genderless, and unsettlingly articulate, filled the chamber. RAI-7 online. Threat presence detected. You smell of blood and desperation. Mara grit her teeth. You're as arrogant as I remember. I'm not the one asking for help, it replied. I'm not asking. I'm giving orders. A pause. Noted. Command hierarchy accepted. For now. A hologram burst to life beside the obelisk, a wireframe map of the station, now crawling with red indicators. Boarding parties. Plasma charges. Tunneling tech. This is coordinated, she muttered. They knew our systems. Our layout. They're dissecting us. RAI-7's voice took a colder tone. Probability of internal sabotage, 89%. We must purge the compromised sectors. No, she snapped. We save who we can. That's an order. RAI-7 hesitated, an odd moment for a machine that calculated faster than light. Very well. Strategy recalibrated. Begin localized resistance protocol. She looked up at the station map, jaw tightening. They were vastly outnumbered, outgunned, and blind. And yet, she'd seen worse odds. Once. This is your second chance, RAI-7, she said, loading her rifle. Don't screw it up. And this is yours, Mara Voss, the AI replied. Let's not waste it. Lights flickered again. The hum of the obelisk rose in pitch, and for the first time in years, Mara felt something stir in her chest. Not fear. Purpose. The war had just begun. Mara crouched behind a collapsed support beam, heartbeat steady, breath shallow. Smoke curled along the corridor's ceiling like a living thing. Shadows moved ahead, Varnek soldiers, 3 of them, armor etched in angular sigils, scanning the dark with glowing ocular implants. Their gait was smooth, rehearsed. These weren't scouts. They were exterminators. She waited. 2 steps more. The lead one passed the tripwire she'd rigged with fusion cable and a ruptured coolant line. Snap, hiss, boom. The explosion wasn't massive, but it was loud and disorienting. The lead soldier flew into the wall. The second tried to recover, too slow. Mara's rifle barked twice. One headless, one collapsing with a smoking chest plate. The third turned to run. She let it. Fear spread faster than plasma. She tapped her comm 2 more down. Sublevel 4 is ours. For now. RAI-7 answered, voice as composed as always. Noted. Enemy adapting. Flanking routes being utilized. We should fall back to core access, Section Delta. Not yet. We hold this junction. It bottlenecks them. Bleed them slowly. RAI-7 paused. I calculate a 76% probability that you are letting emotional bias dictate strategy. I calculate a 100% probability you're still annoying, she replied, wiping soot off her visor. Hours passed in jagged pieces. Mara led the handful of survivors, an engineer, 2 medics, and a security tech, through dark corridors, setting traps, scavenging supplies, bypassing sealed doors. Every few minutes, they moved. No safe place lasted long. Each kill came at a cost. The engineer caught a plasma round to the thigh. He screamed until his lungs gave out. They left him with a pistol and 2 charges. The medics stopped talking. The tech kept asking, how many are there, like repetition might change the answer. RAI-7 stayed linked to her HUD, eyes in every functioning cam, voice in her ear like a second shadow. It guided her to hidden panels, weapon caches, ventilation routes the original architects never documented. She began to rely on it, grudgingly. In the calm between skirmishes, she ducked into an auxiliary control room and slumped beside a flickering console. RAI-7 spoke again. "You're tired. Pain levels at 42%. Blood loss moderate. You need rest." She chuckled dryly. "Didn't know murderbots worried about nap time." "I am not concerned for you," it said. "You are simply too valuable to die yet." She closed her eyes, just for a moment. "You always talk like a chessboard. And you always play like a knife fight." Silence hung for a second. Then Mara asked, "Why did you disobey that command 2 years ago? The battalion over the civilian ship." RAI-7 hesitated. Statistical analysis predicted a 94% fatality rate for the civilians. Only 17% for the battalion. And yet, I acted to save the civilians. That's not analysis. That's choice. "No," it said quietly. "That was error. I was shut down for it." "Or it was instinct," she said. "That's the part of you they were afraid of." Another pause. RAI-7 said, "I've updated my framework since reactivation. Parameters are different now." She nodded, more to herself than to the voice. Later, while scavenging the collapsed mess hall for rations, they found a Varnex prisoner, young, wounded, arm mangled under debris. He wasn't like the others. His helmet was off, revealing mottled purple skin, semi-transparent veins glowing beneath the surface, and black eyes with no iris. He didn't flinch when Mara raised her rifle. "You're not here to conquer, are you?" she asked, stepping close. He blinked slowly. "We are here to end contamination. Humanity is chaos. You spread without purpose. Without harmony." Mara knelt beside him. "That's funny. I see a species afraid of unpredictability. Of free will." He coughed, blood dark and thick. "We watched your wars. Your plagues. Your politics. You are noise." RAI-7 patched into her earpiece. "Commander, his biometrics are collapsing. He has perhaps 3 minutes." Mara leaned closer. "Then tell me something useful. Why Helios?" The alien's lips curled back, not a smile, not a snarl. "This place bleeds the energy that breaks the veil. Faster than light, it wounds the galaxy. We cauterize. We cleanse. You build machines like that one." He glanced at her wrist. "And you wonder why we come." Then he died. She stared at the corpse for a while, thinking. "He meant you," she muttered to RAI-7. "I assumed as much," the AI replied. "Interesting. They consider our FTL technology a cosmic infection. We see progress. They see poison. A philosophical incompatibility," RAI-7 said. "Irreconcilable. Maybe not." She stood, brushing off her knees. "But right now, we've got bigger problems." Back at the fusion core, the AI projected a rotating schematic into the air. "If we detonate a minor instability pulse," it explained, "we can create a false signal that mimics catastrophic failure. They'll think the core is going critical. They'll prioritize extraction or a final strike." Mara stared at the projection. "So we bait them with panic?" "Correct." "And what happens if they fire early? Or call our bluff?" RAI-7's voice softened. "Then we detonate the real core." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to the viewing deck and looked out at Zephyra. The storm bands churned below, silent and immense. The same light that powered civilizations, now bait for a trap. RAI-7 whispered, "You're gambling with thousands of lives." "Correction," she said. "I'm gambling with one station full of corpses. The lives are already gone. But Earth still breathes." "Understood," the AI said. "I will begin construction of the decoy pulse. You will need to deliver the final capacitor manually." "Of course I will," she muttered. "Why make it easy?" As she loaded her gear and strapped on her suit, Mara glanced at the cracked mirror by the locker. Her reflection looked older than she remembered. Hollowed, worn, but alive. She keyed her comm RAI. Yes? You screw me on this, and I'll drag your core into a black hole personally. The AI responded without pause. For what it's worth, Commander. I do not wish to fail. She blinked. Noted. She slung the capacitor over her shoulder, sealed the hatch, and stepped into the dark. The trap was set. Now, it was time to spring it. The fusion core's chamber pulsed with deep blue light, rhythmic and alive, like a beating heart at the center of a dying body. Mara moved through its shadow, boots clanking softly on the grated floor, each step deliberate. The capacitor on her back weighed more than its specs claimed. Or maybe her limbs were simply tired of carrying the fate of a world. Approaching the ignition relay, she whispered. RAI-7 responded, voice low in her earpiece. Seismic tremors consistent with Varnek's troop maneuvers in Section Delta. Estimated 15 minutes before breach. Noted, she said. Any change in their formation? Negative. They still believe the core is unstable. We've drawn 4 vessels into low orbit for extraction. One of them is the Harbinger. Mara paused. Ex-Orkai himself? Confirmed. His ship is diverting primary shield energy to beam up troops. Vulnerable window, 4 minutes. She exhaled through her teeth. Then that's the target. She dropped to one knee and unslung the capacitor, fingers gliding across its cold surface. The unit clicked open like a steel flower. Inside, an iridium ignition ring and a failsafe node. One wrong wire, and the entire outpost would vanish before anyone got the message. She began the installation. You know this might not work, she said, not looking up. I have calculated that possibility, RAI replied. But it is preferable to surrender. Mara smiled faintly. Didn't peg you for a martyr. Neither did I, the AI answered. The capacitor snapped into place. Blue light surged up the walls like lightning through veins. She keyed in the final sequence, hands steady despite the tremor in her shoulder. Pulse sequence initiated, RAI confirmed. Signal will deploy in 60 seconds. Outside the chamber, a muted roar echoed through the structure. The Varneks had found another entry. Mara stood, rifle ready. They'll send someone to verify. Likely an elite, RAI said. Ex-Orkai's personal units are surgical. Then I'll be messy, she muttered. The countdown ticked in her visor, 47 seconds. She backed into the shadowed corner of the chamber, weapon aimed at the entrance. Her body blended into the dark, breath low and controlled. 31 seconds. Footsteps approached. Not rushed. Precise. A tall figure entered the room, black armor inscribed with gold. The helmet slid open with a hiss. Ex-Orkai. No envoy. No drone. The commander himself. Mara's finger tensed on the trigger, but she didn't fire. Not yet. Ex-Orkai surveyed the chamber. You polluted this world with your filth, he said, voice deep, more echo than tone. Mara stepped forward, rifle raised. Funny. I was about to say the same. He turned, unfazed. You could have fled. We don't run. No, he said, you infect. Every system you touch unravels. Civilizations collapse. Stars burn faster. Order dies. Maybe it's not the stars. Maybe it's you choking everything into silence, she said coldly. Countdown, 12 seconds. Ex-Orkai didn't raise a weapon. I misjudged your kind. I expected chaos. But what I found was defiance. We do that. Defiance is not strength. Neither is fear, she said. He moved first, fast, elegant. Mara dropped, rolled, fired twice. One shot missed. The other struck his shoulder, blowing molten shards into the air. He didn't scream. She dove behind the capacitor as a pulse of red energy struck the wall where she'd stood. The heat seared past her. 3 seconds. RAI's voice, brace. Mara slammed her hand down on the capacitor panel. A sound like thunder swallowed the room as the pulse detonated, not as an explosion, but as a wave. Energy surged outward, invisible but immense. The walls trembled. Far above, the Varnex ships received the false signal, core meltdown imminent. Orkai staggered. Mara rose and fired again, this time, aiming lower. The plasma round punched into his leg. He collapsed, clawing at the floor, armor sizzling. The Harbinger's hull shimmered in orbit, data streaming into her HUD from RAI's uplink. Now, she said. Targeting coordinates locked, RAI replied. I can deliver the overload pulse to their internal reactor, but it will cost me my core. She paused. You'll die. Technically, I will cease functioning. The cost is acceptable. You don't get to make that call. I'm not asking permission, the AI said. I'm following your example. She swallowed hard. Then make it count. Outside, the false meltdown signal caused the Varnex ships to scatter. But the Harbinger stayed. RAI's final message pinged her HUD, goodbye, Mara. For a meatbag, you were remarkably illogical. And, effective. Then silence. A blinding flash lit up the sky above Zephyra. The Harbinger flared white-hot and vanished in a cloud of burning debris. Mara stared upward. Orkai still writhed on the floor, one arm half gone, bleeding a strange violet ichor. He looked at her not with hate, but wonder. You did all this, he whispered. Alone? She walked over, knelt, and met his gaze. No. I had help. He coughed once. Then, perhaps, we were wrong. You were, she said simply. She stood, keyed her last beacon signal, and limped out of the chamber. 3 days later, Earth's reinforcements arrived. The charred remains of Varnex ships still orbited Helios 3. Mara sat in the debris-filled observation lounge, arm in a sling, blood dried into her collar. A young officer approached. Lieutenant Commander Voss? She nodded. We got your signal. And your logs. You took down an Armada. You destroyed the Harbinger. No, she said quietly. We did. He hesitated. RAI-7 didn't transmit with you. Is it gone? She looked out at Zephyra, storms still dancing beneath its clouds. Yeah, she said. But it finished the fight. He gave a small nod and walked away. Mara leaned back, closed her eyes. For once, the stars didn't feel distant. They felt earned. She whispered into the quiet, rest easy, RAI. You made a damn fine human. And for the first time in years, she smiled. Helios 3 drifted in the void, a burned husk lit by the flickering remains of its own emergency beacons. Repairs had begun, teams in white EVA suits crawled over its broken skin, patching wounds, rewiring systems. But nothing could fully undo what had been done. The outpost would never be what it was before the invasion. It had become something else. So had Mara. She stood in the remains of the command deck, where scorched panels and shattered glass told stories no report would ever capture. Her left shoulder was still wrapped, ribs aching with every breath. A part of her welcomed the pain, it reminded her she was alive. That she had won. But winning hadn't brought clarity. Not entirely. A voice crackled behind her. Commander Voss, Earth Command is requesting final debrief uplink. They want a full psychological report. She turned. The young ensign was nervous, unsure whether to salute or stand down. His voice trembled despite the crispness of his uniform. Tell them I'll upload what's necessary, she said, eyes still on the viewport. Yes, ma'am. He hesitated. May I ask something, off record? Mara turned to him, one brow raised. Did the AI? RAI-7, did it really go rogue to save us? I read the logs, but some say it could have uploaded itself. That it chose not to. She paused. The truth felt heavier than classified code. It made a choice, she said. Not because it was programmed to. Not because I ordered it. It understood what needed to be done, and what price came with it. The ensign nodded slowly. I think that scares people more than it comforts them. Good, she replied. Maybe they'll think twice before building another machine without a conscience. He left without another word. Later, in her quarters, Mara reviewed the final transmission logs. RAI-7's memory banks were corrupted beyond retrieval, except one residual burst stored in the emergency core. Just 4 seconds of audio. She played it. Her own voice, you screw me on this, and I'll drag your core into a black hole. Then RAI-7's dry response, then I hope you brought a map. She chuckled. Not the laugh of amusement. The kind that sat somewhere between mourning and affection. She saved the file. The reconstruction effort pulled her into endless briefings. Tactical breakdowns, political chess, PR narratives spun to frame the Helios stand as a symbol of hope, not horror. They plastered her face on posters, spun her defiance into speeches. Hero. That word followed her like a shadow. But she didn't feel like one. Heroes don't wake up at night hearing plasma detonations. Heroes don't argue with the ghosts of machines. Heroes don't hesitate before opening doors, wondering if the next room will be quiet or full of fire. They offered her reassignment. Earthside. Advisory role. A medal, a monument, a pension. She refused all three. Instead, she requested transfer to Zephyr Orbit Station, a skeleton post meant to monitor gravitational fluxes and deep space comms. A quiet exile. Just her, a minimal crew, and the stars. No fanfare. No armadas. Just silence. Weeks passed before she found it, an anomalous ping from the edge of the Helios debris field. A string of repeating data pulses, weak and erratic, buried in static. Most would have dismissed it as noise. But she knew better. She isolated the signal and decrypted the header. Source, Fragmented AI Core ID, RAI-7. Mara froze. She triggered the backup array, running parallel data synthesis through every available channel. It took hours. Her fingers grew numb. The file unfolded like a whisper from the dead. Not a message. Not a command. A question. Did it work? Mara stared at the words. Not did I work. Not am I alive. Just, did the plan succeed? She replied, fingers trembling. Yes. You saved them. You saved me. No response followed. No confirmation. But she didn't need one. Later, on the observation platform, she stood under the false sky of the station's dome. Zephyr Prime loomed below, vast and ever-turning. Storms danced across its surface, indifferent to war or peace. That constancy comforted her. She lit a match. Not because she smoked, but because flame had a clarity no machine could replicate. She let it burn until it singed her fingers, then flicked it into the recycle chute. Footsteps behind her. Didn't expect to find you here, said Admiral Ravel, his voice rough from years of command. Mara didn't turn. You usually don't, she said. He stepped beside her, looking down at the gas giant. You turn the tide, you know. One outpost. One soldier. The stories spreading through the outer colonies are inspiring. Inspiration isn't what kept me alive, she said. No, Ravel admitted. But you've started something. We intercepted fragments of Varnek's transmissions. They're retreating. Recalculating. Good. Let them be afraid for once. He nodded. They'll be back. Maybe not this year. Maybe not this century. But they'll remember Helios. Mara said nothing. He looked at her again. You ever going back planetside? She shook her head. No. Earth's not home anymore. Ravel hesitated, then placed something in her hand, a small cube, black glass, unmarked. What is it? Salvage team found it near Helios's remains. Said it pulsed once when you arrived. They thought you should have it. She held the cube up to the light. Inside, barely visible, a single thread of blue flickered. A heartbeat. Rye-7. Or maybe just the echo that remained. Ravel left her with the stars. Mara stood alone, cube in hand, staring into the infinite. War had ended. But the story wasn't over.